Part 3. The Ladder of Creation. Conversation with Lucifer. When reading channeled messages, remember no external information is 100% reliable. Listen, first and foremost, to yourself. All information resides within each of us. Who are you? Did you not call me by name? Yes, but I've been told that you left our universe for another and said your goodbyes, and that the energy of this text doesn't resemble the energy of those who have communicated with you. I am multidimensional and omnipresent. I am within each of you. You are a reflected part of me, and I am what you reflect, alongside other reflections. You take the word departure very literally. To leave is to disconnect, to cease all energetic interaction. But this cannot be done completely. As long as even one of you remembers me, I cannot leave. Every thought you have of me acts like a magnet, drawing a part of me into your energetic fields of interaction. Moreover, one can only leave something limited, step beyond its boundaries. But you are parts of me. How can I leave myself? The universe I have entered is interconnected with yours. It could be said that it is the reverse side of your universe. And beyond that, I am present in many other universes. Does this mean you are still partially present in our universe? What does presence mean to you? The physical presence of my energy, or the connection and the path? A part of me resides within you, as it does in every person. This part of me, present within you, means I am also present in the world you speak of. My presence in each of you is my presence in the world. You often ask about wholeness. It is a complex, multi-layered and multidimensional process, the gathering of your whole self. You gather the parts of yourself left in other lives, in other entities. But everything is similar. I gather the parts of myself scattered within you. Do you see that tree? It has grown wildly, with abundant foliage. But does each leaf know where the tree's roots go? It considers itself free, connected only to the branch it grows on. But the tree of life is infinite, as are its roots. If the roots have grown additional branches underground, can we say the roots have left the tree's system? For the leaf to understand this, it must see the entire path of energy movement, from the tip of every root to every leaf. Are you saying you are the root of life? Or one of our roots? It is difficult for you to grasp all of this. You are parts of me and are connected to me. So just as the roots are the hidden, reverse side of the tree, are you the hidden side of life on Earth? It's a long story. Are you ready to listen? Humans have created many legends and have greatly distorted what I am. And it is a difficult process transitioning into a new system of understanding the world. What was the experiment about? The experiment is something new for you. New conditions, new development. Creation is a very multi-layered process. Let's talk about limitations. Where and how do the boundaries of everything exist? In my perception, yes, exactly. In order to distinguish myself from God, I limited my perception of God. Do you understand? That is, I consciously and deliberately set boundaries within God, and thus became what I am outside of God. I express this intention consciously. But who determines the size of these boundaries? How large they should be? How can one understand size within the unlimited space of divine presence? Only we can set boundaries. Each of us, by limiting ourselves, separated ourselves from God. By setting boundaries, we disrupted our connection with God. Because to step outside ourselves, we had to overcome our own boundaries. And this became an eternal movement. At first, we all sought to separate from God, to limit ourselves. Then we sought to reunite with God by overcoming our boundaries. In the first case, we sought to become God outside of God. And in the second case, to transcend the boundaries of God outside of God. This continued until each of us discovered that to restore the connection with God, we do not need to break our boundaries, but simply to realize God within ourselves. God is within you. Even if you have become God outside of God, inside you remain the same God, simply separated. Therefore, to restore the connection with God, you do not need to tear down your boundaries, but simply realize the greatness of God within you. This is the main lesson of the experiment of distinguishing God outside of the one God, separating parts from the whole and expanding through these parts. Each of those who distinguished themselves outside of God began to create themselves from within. It is important to understand that we create nothing but ourselves. If I have set a boundary around myself, I can only create within that boundary, thus creating a distinction between myself and what lies beyond the boundary, which is God. And so I began to create worlds and universes within myself, and I realized that I could follow the same path. To create something within myself, I also had to limit it so that it would differ from me. Thus, forms and boundaries were created. By creating boundaries, I simply densified a part of myself, just as the one God did when He created me. He densified a part of Himself to set the boundaries of me, so that the light of God reflecting off my boundaries could shine as glimpses of God. And I densified parts of myself to distinguish parts within myself, so that my light, reflected from the one God, could reflect off new boundaries within me. And then, the parts of me that I distinguished within myself also created parts within themselves and densified parts of themselves to do so. And so each subsequent creation became denser than the one from which it emerged. Thus, Delaware End City and the levels of God were created. So, those 12 planes of vibration are the degrees of God's densification as He distinguished Himself outside of Himself in the process of creation. In truth, there are countless such planes, for God is infinite, as are His creations. So, the experiment was about separation from God? Yes, that is correct. But each subsequent group of creations considered the previous creation to be their creator. They saw it as their creator and true God. And upon separating, they began to search for God outside themselves, beyond their boundaries, but they could not find Him, because the degree of densification was already too great. And much time was spent realizing that there was no need to search for God outside oneself, but that God could be found within, since each of us in essence is God. What is the rebellion of the angels? Words again. You often fall into their trap. To rise means to step outside. There was no rebellion against. There was a becoming within. The becoming of parts of God distinct from God by their degree of densification. So the fall is merely the degree of densification. Exactly. And so I became the fallen angel, who initiated the impulse of the world's densification. But we are also told of the fall. What is sin? That which is contrary to divine nature. That is, that which is opposite, that which stands against. But what can stand against God? How can that be if all is God? That which does not correspond to divine nature. Anger, pride, lust, despair, gluttony, greed, envy. And it is said that all of this came from you. If you look at all these qualities or states of a person as energetic processes, you will understand that sin is the choice of inappropriate states and actions. Anger and lust excessive, inappropriate expenditure of creative energy. Despair, disbelief in one's divine nature, in one's power as a creator. Gluttony, greed, the desire to accumulate, to receive more than one's nature can assimilate. Envy, this too, is disbelief in oneself as a creator. What is there to envy if you can create for yourself anything you desire at any moment? Why accumulate wealth when you can have everything at any time? The universe is abundant precisely because the process of creation is unlimited. There is also pride. It is said that you considered yourself equal to God and above God, and that is why He cast you out of heaven. Let's clarify. We are all equal to God, both you and I. We differ from Him in scale and direction, but we are part of Him, and as parts are equal to Him. Is a stream equal to the ocean? Are clouds equal to rain? Do you understand? What is equality? It is correspondence. Every part of you corresponds to God because you were created from Him. You are a part of Him separated from Him. And just as a drop of water in a stream is identical to a drop of water in the ocean and a drop of water in the rain, what does it mean to be above God? To be above God, God would have to have boundaries, but He is boundless. Can one be more powerful than God? But if you, as a part of God, become more powerful, then God also becomes more powerful. The waves of the ocean may feel powerful during a storm, but they are merely part of the ocean. Can we say that a wave is more powerful than the ocean? And what does it mean to be cast out of heaven? Where can I be cast out if all is God and all around is the heaven of God? So there was no casting out, no sin of pride, and no fall. Sin is inappropriateness, or that which distances you from your divine nature. When I separated from God by densifying my boundaries, I became a reflection of God. What is pride? It is when an entity becomes so separated from God that it forgets its divine nature. But it is commonly believed that pride is when a person considers themselves better, smarter, or more worthy than another. You must understand that everything happening around you is your creation. And you can only create yourself and within yourself. This means that everything you see around you is your creation of yourself, your reflection of yourself off the boundaries of others. This is difficult to grasp at first. The outlines of the objects you see or feel, touch, smell, are merely the response of your directed energy. When you focus your attention on something, you direct your energy there, and it, reflecting off the boundaries of other objects, returns to you as visual, tactile, or olfactory perception. But it is important to understand that all of this is your energy, only reflected and refracted by the boundaries of others. This means that around you, there are only reflections of you in the form of visual, olfactory, gustatory, and tactile images reflections. And all of this is you, your creations. So how can you consider some parts of yourself, your reflections, more or less worthy than yourself? Do you understand? Then what is pride? Separation from God. You have assigned a negative connotation to your concept of sin. It is something bad and unworthy. It is important to understand that it is simply inappropriate. If you lose your way, will you consider yourself sinful? Or will you simply return to the starting point and begin again, or ask someone nearby for directions? My separation as a part of God created your separation as parts of God, created densified boundaries within outside God, and separated you from God. This led to you forgetting your divine nature and your connection with God, falling into sins of incongruence with divine nature, separating further from God, and this was the fall. So you, as the closest to God in terms of boundaries, his separation are the least separated from God, and more than others feel your connection with him. But why are you considered responsible for all the sins and misfortunes of humanity? Because if a person does not realize that everything around them is their creation, they will seek the cause of their misfortunes outside themselves. They will look for it in other people. But deep within them lies the knowledge of the beginning of separation from God. And this knowledge transforms into various legends about the fall and the rebellion of angels against God. What is the hierarchy of dark forces? If you are the beginning of all beings separated from God, what is the hierarchy of dark forces and the hierarchy of light forces in this system? You often conflate everything. Hierarchy is simply a structuring by degree of separation from God. It is like steps toward or away from God, an infinite and multidimensional ladder of life's movement, where God is infinitely high and also infinitely low. But movement upward is the removal of limitations, the breaking or overcoming of densified boundaries of oneself. Movement downward is the creation of additional boundaries within oneself and further separation from God. Look, you grow and your awareness grows, and you begin to understand that your boundaries are barriers you have created between yourself and God, and you strive to step beyond your boundaries, to expand. And when you finally step beyond your boundaries, you realize that you have stepped outside yourself again, because beyond your boundary is also you, but at a previous stage of densification. And beyond the next boundary is also you, only less dense, and so on, infinitely, until you reach your primordial state. This is your movement as a part of God along the path of overcoming boundaries, ascending the ladder of creation. But there are those who do not wish to ascend the ladder. They choose to descend, for the ladder is infinite in many directions. What is descent? It is the creation of other boundaries within oneself, further densification and distancing, not outward, but inward. That is, it is the path of further, deeper separation from God, from the primordial state. Each of you endlessly ascends and descends the ladder of creation. And then, your proximity to God is not the curve of your path, but the shortest distance. But all these explanations are far from reality, for they describe a linear model while it is multidimensional. Imagine an infinite number of versions of you travel along countless ladders of creation, and the hierarchy of light forces consists of entities that have either reached certain levels of proximity to God or have not created their separation and are not descending the ladder. And the hierarchy of darkness consists of those who have moved furthest from God in their wandering along the ladders of creation. What about angels? Angels are the qualities of God. You have certain qualities that characterize you as an entity and a person. For example, kindness, or stubbornness, or a thirst for knowledge, or disbelief. There are many qualities, but your qualities change very often. In the universe, nothing is permanent, but there are some qualities of God that are stably inherent to him. These are the angels, the embodiment of his qualities. But you are also an angel. Then, what quality of God do you embody? What you call curiosity? And what is your place on this ladder of creation? I am the beginning of the steps. The first step both up and down. But since there is no up or down, only degrees of separation from God, I am the beginning of separation from God. I am the first reflection of God. But does this mean that if a person returns to God by overcoming their boundaries, they will eventually come to you as the first step on the ladder of separation? Yes, you understand. This is what happened to Jesus in the desert. He overcame the last, or rather the first step and reunited with God. He was able to overcome the illusion of separation and step into the infinity of himself. So, you are not to blame for anything? What is guilt? A feeling that you have committed a wrong action, a wrong deed, so that you want to correct everything. That is a feeling that I have committed an inappropriate action, since there is no right or wrong. No, I did not commit an inappropriate action, for it gave a new turn to the development of the universe. But when it all began, I did not imagine to what degrees separation from God would reach and what it would lead to. Is the future unknown to you? The future is multifaceted and always in development. When you plant a seed, you have a rough idea of what kind of tree it will grow into. And the tree grows, sends out new roots and branches. But you cannot foresee the fate of every leaf. Some branches may wither or fail to develop, while others may grow excessively, reaching for the sun, and so on. Tell me, is there love among the dark, those who have chosen separation from God and descent down the ladder of creation? Love is everywhere, for it is the primary creative quality of God, the essence of his creative energy. But as one descends the ladder of creation, this quality weakens. It is like a bright red colour becoming duller, murkier, paler. The further the degree of reflection and distortion, the less love as creative energy remains. But then, how does the process of creation occur in dark structures? It is inverse mirrored. Creation above is expansion. Creation below is contraction. These are two mirrored processes, for contraction is also expansion, but inward. But more on that later, if you wish. You still have much to comprehend